Okay, so obviously this is going to be a very compressed version of all the data that we collected. And in writing this presentation, I know it says USA cold steri, but this could adhere to any of the markets that have very long shipping durations. So just a little bit of background. As Andre said this morning, there's a huge increase in predicted nectarine volumes. For this, we need to expand our markets, and with that comes phytosanitary requirements. These phytosanitary requirements are, you need to adhere to each market, but inevitably it results in extended or prolonged cold storage. Just because we have issues with a harbor, it takes time to accumulate a container, and then the cold steri itself. So these periods exceed sometimes over 35 to 38 days. So in my trial, we had quite a lot of different nectarine cultivars that we looked at, yellow and white flesh. We also wilted a whole section of them. So wilting was applied if the flesh firmness of the fruit was above 9. We would then keep it at 10 degrees at ambient for 24 hours and then sample it until it reached about 8 kilogram, where 50% of the fruit was 8 kilogram. So we used the sort of the protocol that hort growers outlined for wilting on those subsamples. So the storage and evaluation, we had an evaluation at intake, and then we had 2 storage durations that we were testing, 42 and 49 days, and then within each we had a shelf life simulation. The parameters we evaluated, we looked at firmness, acids and sugars, skin cracks, decay, and then for shrivel, because it's market dependent, we looked at where the shrivel is present, if it's around the stem or if it extends over the shelf, over the shoulder. So the internal parameters that we examined, we looked at woolliness and pulpiness, as well as internal browning and bleeding around the stone to see what other defects we would see popping out. Okay, so I just want to say the results must please be interpreted with caution. This was the first full season. We only did a pilot last season, so please do not make any decisions based on these results. If I just highlight Luciana and Firepool in this table for early and mid-season cultivars, we could see that the internal browning was quite high after 42 days of cold storage. So Luciana we had in our pilot study for 38 days where we didn't see any internal browning. So it would be interesting to see if there's a threshold in there somewhere for what it could handle. If we look at our mid to late season cultivars, Majestic Pearl was the only one that had lower levels of internal browning compared to the rest after 42 days. And once again, after 38 days in our pilot, we didn't see any internal browning. So I think for the next season, we need to look at building in another date so that we can see if there's a potential threshold, because the cultivars weren't very happy after 49 days. So just to give you sort of a summary or an overview, this is what we call a CART analysis. So it looks at which factor or parameter had the biggest influence on that defect. So here we could see that evaluation was the most important for internal browning, and for shrivel it was cultivar. For firmness, it was cultivar once again, and then for pulpiness, it was wilting. So for this season, we could see that wilting decreased shrivel, but it increased pulpiness in both yellow and white flesh nectarines. We saw an increase in internal browning in yellow flesh nectarines and an increase in bleeding in white flesh cultivars. Okay, thank you, with like 10 seconds to spare.